Get out of here! It seems everywhere you look right now. There it is, the Leviathan box. It's just everywhere. I have one as well, but doing a video about that seems unnecessary. It's a great box with some new and shiny things in it. No arguments there. But I felt like doing something else. Maybe paint something old. We start with a little history because I love the sound of my voice, and admit it, you do too. If not, hopefully you are too lazy to skip this part or switch video. Many years ago, when I was young, I lived in a place like this and had no access to a proper hobby or Games Workshop store. We didn't even have a proper internet connection at home for large parts of my childhood, so we couldn't really look at all the cool things that's out there. At school, you could sign up at the library to use a computer with internet access for 15 minutes. So I did that quite often and always visited www.games- is it called dash? gamesworkshop.com to look at all the shiny things that I couldn't afford or couldn't buy. One of the models I used to look at was this one. At the time it was the coolest undead mini they had, at least in my mind. I wanted it. But the local toy store that had some Warhammer stuff, of course never had that one. If they would, I probably wouldn't afford it anyway. I did, however, buy this model just a couple of years ago and painted it. And here is that. Today I want to do something similar. When I was a kid, we sometimes went to the big city, where there was a somewhat more proper hobby store. And I would look at everything that was in there and sometimes buy something cool. I once saw a little skeleton guy. I think it was in a display cabinet because you couldn't buy it. It was just for show. Like someone's army. It was just part of someone's army. And it was this one. Skeleton Standard Bearer number 3. I knew I wanted it immediately. For some reason, I just think it looks very cool. Well, 20 years or so later, and here we are. Here it is, and let's paint this motherfucker. All I've done before starting to record here is my usual black primer, followed by 2 thin coats of another primer called Skeleton Bone. I don't like metal miniatures and I don't miss them at all. I'm thinking that with 3 layers of primer, the paint won't chip off that easily. Probably. Anyway, as you can see, the first thing I do here is to wash all the bones with Agrax Earthshade, because Agrax Earthshade makes every mini cool AF. Then I painted something else for a while when that was drying, but you won't see that because I'll edit that out. The next step is to pick out all of the bones again with Bone White. It's pretty much the same color as the Skeleton Bone primer. Then I mix some off-white into the Bone White and do it again, but obviously cover less area. I like to put down most of the miniature's primary colors early so I can get a feel for the composition. So let's paint some red here and some blue here. I usually paint in a grim darkish style, but this model is from the 90s, I think. And I will lean into that a little bit by making this a little more colorful than I usually prefer. I tone it down a bit by mixing some grey into the blue here, and then adding a hint of green to the next layer. For chainmail and metal parts on my undeads, I usually start from brown to make some rusty looking old things. But that's not what you did in the 90s. Bolt gun metal and null oil was the way to go. Always. I will honor that tradition, but I will probably use a brown wash instead. Probably Agrax Earthshade, because that makes every mini cool AF. We have blue, red and white, so what else do we need to finish this clown fiesta? Yeah, yellow. Let's paint that bell, tin or bronze or something and give the skeleton some golden details. There we are. brown wash for the chainmail. Agrax Earthjade make everything cool AF. While that's drying, we can do some red highlights on his cloth things. Alright, starting to look good. I still had no idea what that was. It looked like some kind of jewelry at first, but I will soon realize it's just another part of his tunic. Some rust effect paint on the chainmail to make it a little more interesting. First with a bright orange and then with a dark brown. And of course some verdigris on the bell. I mix in some bright gold paint with the tinny tin and make some highlights on the parts I want to be goldish. For the bell, I mostly just buff up some shine by applying the same tin color again, but I do add some brighter spots on the edges. But not as bright as the gold trim, obviously. Oh yeah, and here is when I paint that last bit of clothing I wasn't sure about what it was. If I'm ever unsure about what something on a miniature actually is, I mostly just leave it. When you begin to fill in the rest of the mini, you often realize what it's supposed to be. Just like in this case. When the red on the newly found piece of cloth was up to speed, I did some strategic shading with brown wash and then with a black wash. Then it's time for the last highlights on the cloth with an orange. Highlighting red with orange works fine as long as you are careful not to use too much orange, or the thing will look orange instead of red. And then all that remains is the last highlight on the bones with an off-white. I'll use this very sparsely as well and will not go any brighter. Some basing work and a coffee break later. Here it is. This was a very fun 2-hour-ish project and I'm very happy with how it turned out. I might come back to this at some point to make a little banner with green stuff, but we'll see about that. Maybe in another 20 years or so. What do you think about it? Does it look good? Did you like the video? Do you want me to make more videos like this one? Let me know in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.